Shut up and sit down.
All right, let's get back into things. This is the baseball show. You're watching Nickel Press TV. We're just three guys. Three dudes, whatever you want to call us. Talking baseball. It's the off season. It's the hot stove season. We've given you two things so far: our thoughts on the Cubs, our thoughts on the Red Sox. Now we're getting into the White Sox. Not because they project nearly as well as the first two teams we talked about, but just because they just became probably the best minor league organization in all of baseball. So, as we've done with the first two episodes or clips or whatever these little segments are, Ralph, please let everybody know what exactly it is the White Sox have in fact done.
So the White Sox have obviously added at least 4 top 100 prospects right off the bat. They added Yohan Moncada. They added Michael Kopek. They added Lucas Giolito. They added Ronaldo Lopez. Giolito, arguably, depending upon who you talk to over the last year, could be the best pitching prospect in baseball. Definitely top 5 still, even if people don't like him, aren't fans of him. I have my own opinions on that. And then the same thing with Moncada. You could say that arguably Moncada, less arguably than Giolito, is a top hitting prospect in baseball. So they add those two guys. If you look at what they're just top 5, I'm going through my White Sox system review that I did over at Razzball. You go through Moncada, Zach Collins, Kopek, Birdie, Fulmer, Adams, Hanson. They got a ton of arms. And they got some low minors guys as well. They've just completely restocked this farm system. It went from being a borderline terrible farm system when I wrote about it. I had to update it. Now it's probably the most exciting farm system to write about, maybe outside the Astros.
And let's not forget they also still have Tim Anderson, who didn't even play a full season yet under his belt, who's better than average shortstop. Now, with Tim Anderson there, Moncada was only going to move to second base because Xander Bogaerts has that lockdown in Boston. Does Moncada go back to shortstop, or is that it? Is he done there? Is he going to become the new Jose Peraza that was a phenomenal shortstop, and because of organizations he was in, is now looked at as strictly a second baseman?
Well, I think Moncada is going to end up sticking at second or third base. There's still a chance he could go to third. They could move Todd Fraser tomorrow, especially the way they're unloading prospects. That's a possibility. He could still stay at third. He could still see some time at second base. I mean, they have Lowry there now. I don't know if they plan on committing to Lowry long term at second. They could move him over to third as well. That'll be sort of interesting as to how that shakes out. I think there's zero chance he goes to short. I think his natural position is second base. And at times he's shown well at third. He's still error prone, though. He still doesn't know the position. I think he's better at second base.
So, Tehol, if you're Jose Abreu and you're seeing all this happen and go down, and you're still in the middle of your prime, what are you telling management?
I'm saying trade me to Seattle, baby. Weed's legal up there. I'm a legend. They got a hole at first base, even though they trade for that bum at Vogelbach from the Cubs, whatever. And then they got Valencia. They got a little platoon going there, but let's get him in Seattle where he belongs, up here with the real G's, doing real things. Get him out of Chicago. Too much gang violence. Doesn't need to be there anyway. Reminds him too much of Cuba. We don't want to be doing that. It's not socialist country here. We have Donald Trump as our new president-elect. And I would like to think that they trade Abreu, trade Fraser. This is what I was going to ask you guys. Do they have to dump? How do they not dump these guys? How do they not trade these guys?
I absolutely think they have to. But real quick, before we get into that, don't you have 2 first basemen? Don't you have Adam Lind and Tehol Lee?
I think they're gone, bro.
They're gone.
Again, I was being
baseball shit. Come on. To call Chris Rose would pimp slap you for saying
I
something.
was being facetious. But anyway.
Let me add one thing on Abreu. He and Moncada are actually from the same town. Apparently their families know each other. So there's a lot of talk that he's going to mentor Moncada, and he wants to actually play with Moncada. And if you look at what's going on in the Central, there's a chance the White Sox could be the best team in that division next year, especially if the Tigers sell. That's a bad division. Kansas City's selling. Tigers aren't good, and the Indians are a house of cards.
Okay, so the biggest question I have, and I'm not Tehol, I know you're more of a redraft guy than a dynasty, even though you do know a lot about prospects. But my big question is, before we knew that the Adam Eaton trade existed, it really came down to Victor Robles or Yohan Moncada, because that was really the difference. If Sale went to the Nationals, then they were getting what they got for Eaton plus Victor Robles, right? So really the big difference becomes what they got from the Red Sox and Kopek, Moncada, everything else. So do those guys equal Robles, or are we really overvaluing Victor Robles? And I know this isn't a Nationals thing, but are we really overvaluing Victor Robles when you look at what he apparently equates to in the trade market right now? In the trade market right now?
Yes.
Okay, that was easy enough. What was your other question then? The White Sox?
My other question?
Yeah, you asked something else. You said one other thing I wanted to add.
Ralph said that, and then another friend of mine who I think is a White Sox fan said, yeah, they expect the same thing, to be contending as soon as, I think he didn't say this year, but I think he said as soon as 2018 and definitely 2019. So do they keep Quintana? Do they keep Abreu around, Fraser around? I mean, I would just be getting excited if I was a GM, and I'd be like, let's just fully reload this up. Like, let's go all in and just see what happens, and then sign a couple, pick and choose who you sign going from there. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they kept him, but I mean, if I was Abreu, I'd be like, get me out of here. Like that lady in Happy Gilmore stuck at the mental facility. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, get me out of here. Like, please, now.
I wasn't aware of the Moncada Abreu connection, but that really makes a whole lot of sense for Abreu to want to stick around in town. Yeah, I really don't get the Fraser aspect because, first of all, it's not like he's in his hometown. That would be back, closer to the Mets or the Yankees. And the White Sox, for them to compete next year or 2 years from now, they have to have a lot of things go right. It's one thing for one prospect to hit. It's another thing to count on 3, 4, 5 hitting all at the same time. So I think it's very optimistic. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And these are high-level prospects, as Ralph mentioned. But it really, there's a lot more to it than, just saying, well, he's, top 25 in overall prospect ranking, so he's a guaranteed hit. This trade, the Kopek Moncada trade, really reminded me a lot of, and I think I told you this, Ralph. Obviously, different scenario and different level, but it really reminded me of the R.A. Dickey for Travis Arnaud and Noah Syndergaard move a couple years back, coming off of Dickey's Cy Young campaign. That's the kind of impact this could have, and what I mean by that is that's the kind of pitcher Kopek could be, and we're not even really talking about him as much as the other players in the deal right now. Is there anything you want to add, knowing what you know of him being in the Red Sox system?
Yeah, see, I'm a huge fan of Kopek. The thing that I love about him is he's nasty, and I think a lot of people look at the stimulants, the suspension that he had a couple years ago, the incident in spring training where he punched the teammate and broke his hand, and they don't necessarily look at the other side of him. And he's brash, he's cocky. If you follow him on Twitter, you see that. Keith Law actually scouted him out in the Arizona Fall League, where he was phenomenal. He was the best pitcher in the entire Arizona Fall League. And that's not just hyperbole. That's pretty much everybody that's saying that. Said that he didn't hit triple digits. And so Kopek read the article, and it was a glowing review. It was a glowing article. I mean, he spoke very highly of Kopek and what he thought Kopek could become. And Kopek still chirped at him. And it's because, he's just constantly motivated to become better. This guy is from that Thor school. His whole mentality is lift heavy, throw hard. He's a baseball fanatic. I mean, this guy is constantly working out, constantly working on his stuff. He's made huge strides in terms of his control just in the last few months. He's now throwing that slider. He's got a nasty slider. He's mixing that up with a changeup that he's now throwing from the same arm slot as the 105-mile-per-hour fastball. He's throwing the changeup in the Arizona Fall League to righties, which I think is showing confidence in that pitch. And he's just keeping guys off balance. I think, his ceiling is as high as anybody, and he's, very exciting for fantasy because of the high K numbers. I'm a huge Kopek guy.
He's literally what Tehol Beddict would be if Tehol Beddict was a minor league pitcher.
That no joke, he is, man. He is.
Both on and off the field. Throws gas, lets you know about it, will troll you on Twitter. He's
the daughter of a real housewife.
Yes, Michael Kopek. So
is he really?
Yes.
Yeah. Kim, the crazy white lady from Atlanta Housewives. He dates her daughter.
You're kidding me.
Nah, dead serious, man.
Oh, he dates your daughter. He's not born to one.
No, dates.
Dates.
He's like.
I think his mom was a fucking mom.
No,
he's like Scott Disick or whatever it is, which brings us full circle. What I was calling you earlier. Anyway, what I want to ask you, Lord Beddict, is they went all in on Adam Eaton. The Nationals did, giving up all these top level prospects to get him, and they seemingly chose him over Andrew McCutchen. So, was this a mistake, or was this something that we're going to look back on and say the Nats got it right? What are you doing if you're the Nationals GM?
I think I would have taken the risk on I mean, I don't know if it still would have taken those. I guess it probably would have still taken that kind of prospects. I'm not as high on Giolito. I mean, I guess I don't follow him as closely as other people has. I mean, he obviously was very disappointing when he came up originally, which I never like to see. I like to see a guy dominate from day one. That's kind of what I'm about. I'm kind of a winner, so I kind of like to see winning.
Michael Kopek of Fantasy Talk. So would you take Eaton or
yeah, I'm a big Eaton fan, but he hasn't put up the numbers I ever hoped for him or expected of him. I thought it was crazy when Arizona traded him originally. I thought that was ridiculous, and so I mean, I like the pickup for the Nationals. I guess it all just depends on how good Giolito is. If he's as good as people think if he's the best pitching prospect in baseball, then absolutely not. Because he's close enough. He's already been in the majors. So if he's the best prospect there is as a pitching position, as a starting pitcher, then no, I don't like it.
All right, well, I'm going to rehash my Giolito personal account. I went to scout him, had behind the bullpen seats, drove what should have been a 2-hour drive, wound up being 6 hours due to construction and traffic. And then when I finally got to where the game was supposed to be in Hartford, realized the stadium was under construction and it was designated a home game in Hartford, but they were actually in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
So, yes. So I didn't get to see Giolito firsthand as I wanted to, but that's not why I dislike him. I'm going to give you a name. Jabba Chamberlain is what I think when I think of Giolito, and we know how that worked out. I don't say that like, stitch for stitch on a baseball as a comparison. Like I think they're identical twins or anything. But the point is, big, heavy thrower, more suited for bullpen right now. And if even you could say that with his control issues, those are serious issues. Not something you can't harness, but they are serious issues. And if they don't get any better, he's going to continue to not get a chance. Maybe he will with the White Sox if they're playing for nothing and they're going nowhere. But it's not something that you should just, gloss over and think, oh, well, this guy throws 100 miles an hour. He's 6'4", he's 220 pounds, he's huge, he's going to get it, he's going to figure it out. Not everybody always figures it out. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. Jabba came up and we all thought his career was going to go a whole lot differently than it actually wound up going. And that's the only reason I use that name as just a little bit of caution with Lucas Giolito. So, with that being said, anybody else have anything they want to add to the White Sox organization or any of the moves they've made to this point?
No, I'm still glad they booted what's-his-name for bringing his kid around all the time. I thought that was the coolest thing they've done in the last 20 years or so.